good day, everybody. Today is the 30th of May, and we have David Smuts on with us today. Before we start, I'd just like for everyone to please subscribe to the channel. I do have the Rumble channel I'm starting to upload towards to that, so this episode should be on Rumble as well, and that'll be at Might Not Be For You Pod. Um, Obviously, if you're on YouTube, you could just click subscribe and comment and like, as well as make sure you follow David on X at David Smuts, last name Smuts, David Smuts, and give me a follow as well on X at MNBFY Pod. And I'm nailing it now. I'm getting used to it, David, to say that acronym. But yeah, David. So today we are going to be talking about uh, these, current disclosures and this new film coming out, aptly, titled and timed for, I believe, June 12th. So I guess we could start with like why right now, David? Why is disclosure being pushed so heavily? What's the intent behind it? Is there a purpose? You want to take us from there, David?
Sure, there definitely is a purpose. Before I go into that, I just want to say thank you for hosting me here. I'm really delighted to be on your show, Iman. This is a subject, this particular part, disclosure and its related topics, is very relevant, perhaps surprisingly for some, but very relevant to the unreleased Secrets of Fatima. And I've been wanting to speak about it for quite some time now. And this is really great because with your platform here, this is giving me the opportunity to discuss it more at length and in depth. As you know, I'm on X, and that's where I've been revealing the unreleased Secrets of Fatima in the format of questions and answers. And this particular topic, I don't get very many questions on, to be honest with you. I guess when people think of Fatima, that's not the subject that comes to mind. So it's not very often that I do get questions about it. And when I do, it's a very sensitive subject and really difficult to answer because there is so much confusion around this subject. And I'll want to come back to that later and discuss some common misconceptions and also discuss some of the nomenclature that we use so that we have an agreed upon understanding of what this word means and what it doesn't. Because on this topic, words like angels, demons, aliens, UFOs, UAPs, they mean so many different things to different people. It's like speaking Greek to a Chinese man sometimes. So I will want to touch on that because that will make things a lot easier to explain, and then we can have a more meaningful conversation if we understand the terminologies that we're using and that we have a shared understanding of that. But in answer to your question, you're asking why all the disclosure now, and that's a fundamental question because this subject of UAPs, UFOs, extraterrestrial life in the universe, that's been ongoing for a heck of a long time. And we've always had little drips and drabs and bits of information periodically being channeled, even programmed out to us. But recently, there is a spike, and no one can really deny that. We're just seen it on our news channels now, and they're no longer playing the X Factor, show tune to sort of make a joke of it. The wee wee wee. As they used to do, you know,
Right.
whenever they touched this subject, they always made sure to make you feel like you're the guy in the silver tinfoil hat and that this is a funny subject. Ha 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 ha. They're not doing that so much anymore. They're having more mature introductions and conversations, and for the first time, really, that I've seen, taking this subject seriously. Trump, on the other hand, oh, well, he and his War Department and aliens.gov website, that's a different matter, and
Right.
we'll come on to that. But we can all agree that there has been a surge in the messaging, whether it's coming from the White House, you know, 2 more weeks, alien files are going to drop. Whether it's coming from members of Congress, dadgummit, Tim Burchett and the aliens and what he's seen, or Anna Luna, Paulina Luna,
Yep.
and the congressional hearings and all the alien podcasters, the Ross Coultharts, the Jeremy Corbells, all of that's intensifying. And along this wave, we've got the great and illustrious Steven Spielberg making his follow-up to Close Encounters and E.T. with his new movie. And there's a heck of a lot of messaging that is going into that. And it's all very deliberate. It's all timed. The reason why it's nuanced, but it does concern the increase in intensity, shall we say, the amount of information being disclosed, and there is new information coming out. There's no doubt about that. We're seeing videos now that we haven't seen before, and the government's saying, yes, this really, you know, this is real footage. We're verifying that. All of that is fitting into a timeline. And from the Fatima perspective, it's all tying into the events that are warned about in the final decade before Christ's great sign. So this is the pivotal moment in the Fatima Secrets. And in the timeline, there's the time leading up to that and culminating and intensifying in a last decade before that sign, and then the events after that, the brief period of peace, and then the the splitting of the times and the things getting better for some and getting considerably worse for others. So everything that I'm seeing here with the increased information and misinformation as well coming out around disclosure is part of what we were warned about would happen in terms of the efforts by what's called the shadow force in the Fatima Secrets, which is the essentially a Luciferian cabal of people who think they are elite, who largely operate in the shadows and behind closed doors and unseen to the public eye, yet interfere in the events of man and try to manipulate them for their own Luciferian purpose. And if we look at that Luciferian cabal and their interests, they know Christ's sign is coming and they know what that entails. At least they know from what's been written down in the Fatima Secrets that they would have been privy to. The rest of the population isn't, but they are, and that's a big bad event for them. They don't want that happening. They don't want you seeing that. They don't want you experiencing Christ's great sign because it's going to be a huge revelation, a huge unveiling. I can't really describe it adequately because it's not, the word sign doesn't do it justice. It's an existential, transformational event, and the Luciferians don't want that. So, in the run up to Christ's sign, God will allow them to develop technologies like AI imagery and all these other sort of technologies that they can use to try, and I stress the word try, and to attempt to counteract the sign.
Right.
And in this strategy is a a a strategy of grand deception on a scale you can't possibly imagine. They're going to throw everything at it. Um, I mean, they're trying to obscure the skies right now anyway. That will
Right.
build up over time because they want to block out Christ's sign. Um, there are other reasons that I've written about why they're doing that too. That's one of them. But they're throwing this. They're putting things into high gear now for their counter plan. And what they want to position humanity in such a confused and disoriented state that man believes in nothing and no one. He questions everything.
Just
That
shatter the will of humanity. Right.
exactly. So that when Christ comes and appears, that they'll say, "Oh, this is, they're at it again. Fooled me once, fooled me twice. Not buying this. It's the Iranians, the Iranian drones. That's it. Oh, it's the Chinese drones. No, it's the Russian drones. No, it's the Ukrainian drones. No, it's AI. It's an AI hologram. No, it's the aliens. It's the aliens." So,
Truly, it's this mad, right? I mean,
yeah.
so if we can just roll it back just a little bit, David, on the shadow force, and
Mhm.
obviously, I think we are both, off the recording, we're aligned on some things, right?
Yeah.
And when I think of what you equate to as the shadow force and Luciferians, it's the hubris that these entities, beings, people
Yeah.
have, that they truly, and we talked about this offline.
Yeah.
Maybe you can pivot to this, is that they truly do believe they have the capacity to alter God's plan. And
Absolutely.
maybe could you maybe like elaborate a little bit on that, and then we can kind of resume where we just stopped.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And this is what people don't really understand about Luciferians. They're in their mind, they're thinking of Satanists who are, blue haired and tattooed and a whole bunch of rings in their nose and their eyes, and that's not them. That's a different group. Um, and Luciferianism really, I mean, it is a religion in itself. They are, believers, if you can call them that, and they have a very distorted belief system. And their prince, their dark prince, Lucifer, is their illuminator, and they believe in a higher power. They believe in an omnipresent God, but they also, as you said, believe that they can influence God. That God doesn't, because God respects free will so much, that God's not going to intervene to stop their nefarious plans if their nefarious plans are willingly accepted or tolerated by the populace at large. So part of their strategy here, and it's multifaceted and multi-strategies, is to ultimately get man to reject Christ all of their own free will and volition. And when Christ comes, They know it's happening. They know what's at stake, but they want to position humanity so that humanity doubts what occurs at that time, and then accepts their alternative explanation. And that goes into Antichrist and into the future. We're not there yet.
Right.
We still have a lot to play out. For some reason, that seems to upset people when I say that. I don't know why, but well, I kind of do. They're attached to a false and rigid interpretation of the 70th week of Daniel, and they think that everything's going to be wrapped up in 7 years, or 3.5 good years and 3.5 bad years,
Right.
and that's it. And anything anything that extends over that, they don't want to hear that. So they don't like me when I mention that. But Iman, I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear.
Absolutely
I'm not.
no.
Yeah. I'm. If I was doing this for my personal benefit, there are things that I would say differently. There are things I wouldn't say at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no interest in that, and that often makes me unpopular. It People get easily offended, and if they want to know the secrets of Fatima, they have to be prepared to know some really disturbing things.
Right.
They have to be prepared to have some of their own rigid concepts challenged. Otherwise, don't ask.
Right.
If you want, good news, turn on to YouTube and watch Joel Osteen. And and how you can be a millionaire just like him, because that's what God wants for you. If you don't want want to hear disturbing content, then don't ask about Fatima, because it's going to disturb the heck out of you. But it's also going to forewarn you and forearm you. That's the important thing. It's not meant to scare you. I don't, get any benefit from people feeling depressed or despondent or sad or scared. And if I don't want that, neither does God.
Absolutely.
But I mean, if you had a neighbor and you saw that, hey neighbor, there's some people scouting around your house, and they're all, in black uniform and masked up, and they keep coming, and I can hear them on the radio, and they're saying they're going to do this and that, and the neighbor then has a choice to say, yeah, thank you for telling me that. That's horrible. I better act on it. Or the neighbor says, don't tell me that. I don't want to know. Those people are fine. They haven't bothered me. Stop telling me bad news. The bad, it's not all bad news, first of all, but
Of
the
course.
bad parts are pretty scary. There's a lot of good reasons. I kind of quote unquote good here. A lot of human reasons that you might have some sympathy for the reason why the Vatican didn't release or hasn't released the full secrets. And a lot of those have to do with some very disturbing revelations that the Vatican asked, well, how is that going to help people? The good ones in the Vatican, at least.
Right.
How
It's
are
truth,
people?
right? I mean,
Yeah,
ultimately, you need to provide truth and follow truth.
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, circling back to where I was going with that. The timelines we have are a bit longer than people like, and we're still in the early stages, I'm afraid. There's a lot more to come, and it's going to get really super bumpy, and it's going to get super weird. I mean, that's the word I use so much with the Fatima secrets. It's weird, and people don't like weird. They sometimes they could handle scary, but weird, they don't like that. And there is a lot of weirdness that it's warning about. It's warning about the weirdness, and we're seeing the weirdness already. I mean, fake Ghislaine Maxwell's being interviewed. Some general with a mask on his face being interviewed. The Epstein, all of that. Don't even get me started.
I know.
Strange lights in the sky.
The drones over Jersey right before the
Drones over
election.
Jersey, yeah, the drones over Jersey, the red skies, the aurora borealises that are not supposed to be happening in those locations. There is a lot of weirdness going on, and we're warned about that. And now you can, to the listener, you can tune out, and your life will be, much more comfortable than tuning in right now. You can tune out and not listen to these warnings and not pay attention to the weirdness and just brush it all aside. And, well, it wasn't really a mask that guy was wearing. He's just got a turkey chin neck, And, well, that fake Ghislaine, it's the makeup, Come on, folks. Stop being conspiracy theorists. You can find your explanations, and you will if you want to find them. There are plenty of people out there giving explanations, ridiculous explanations. But if you want a ridiculous explanation, there's plenty of them, and you can hide in your head in the sand, and you'll be, your quality of life will probably be better for that, for a period of time. And then your world is going to be rocked to its foundation. And you as in this profile of people I'm speaking of, when those people are confronted with the undeniable, insuperable problems coming onto the earth, they're going to fall into despair. This breaks my heart to say this, but a lot of them are going to commit suicide, or want to commit suicide, or fall into deep, dark depressions. It's really, really going to trouble them at that time, if they're playing the ignorance is bliss game, because one day it's not going to be bliss. And then you're going to be saying, well, why wasn't I told? Well, you were told. You just didn't want to listen. You didn't want to ask. You didn't want to inquire. You said, nah, Fatima can't say that. That's nonsense. It's all been released, and everything that has ever been said about it has been made known, and you're making all of this up, which is what I hear very often. Fine, tune out. Don't listen to the people who are trying to educate you and warn you, and just vote harder in the midterms, and go watch Taylor Swift at the next concert, and eat your cheese Doritos, and continue paying your Netflix subscription, and
Exactly.
all of those great things.
Deny until you can't anymore.
Absolutely. But if you want to know, inquire, ask, but be prepared to feel a little uncomfortable. But it's better to feel uncomfortable now, Iman. It's better to know. I mean, that's why the Virgin Mary wanted this to be made known. It wasn't to scare people. It was, to prepare them and saying, this is what's going on. This is what they're trying to do to you. Your leaders aren't your friends. This is what the Luciferian agenda is. This is what they're going to try to do. This is what they are going to do. This is what you can do to counter it. It's all very practical in that sense. And to be forewarned is to be forearmed, because once you start to face it and confront it and address it, you build up a resilience. It's like, okay, I was expecting this. That's, I'm not going to get upset about, Thomas Macy losing, or whoever, falling out of the race or whatever. You build up a resilience. it's like watching. I don't know if you were around, but in 1979 there was a movie called Alien. Scared the living daylights out of me when I was a child. Um, uh, I watched it a few years later because I was too young to get in the cinema, and it scared the what's it out of a lot of people at the time. But I've seen that movie a dozen times now, and an alien with claws coming out of their mouth and dripping saliva. It doesn't scare me anymore.
Right. The
Because I feel
sensationalism is like it's past. You've been acclimated to it.
exactly. I've faced that terror,
Mhm.
and you know that's what I mean by being forewarned is being forearmed. Is you're prepared. You know, you it's still going to be. I mean, no matter how much we prepare ourselves and with the knowledge, it's still going to be challenging times. It's still going to be scary. Don't assume otherwise. But you're going to be able to face it. You're going to be able to be strong at that time when so many others aren't. When so many others give in to despair. And this will be worldwide, absolutely worldwide. So the information's there if you want to know it, but just you know, don't expect sunshine and roses. It's really some grisly details when you take a microscope and dig into Luciferianism and dig into the shadow force and what they're intending. It's very, very dark. We're talking about really, really dark things here. Um, but the advantage of the way I'm disclosing this secret is we can have a conversation about it. It's not just okay. Here's a book with everything written down. Read it, and I'll leave it to you. It's a question and answer format. Ask a question that you want to know about. I'll give you an answer. I'll try to explain it. I'll try to find scripture or news stories or third party validations to help you internally validate that information. And I'll try, as a brother in Christ with you, try to explain okay, this is bad, but um, here's the silver lining to it, or here's what we can do to help prepare ourselves to counter it, and then it becomes a more of a collaborative conversation, and that's why, um, uh, which I really didn't appreciate at first when I made the decision to come out with this. I really didn't quite appreciate or understand the Lord's plan in this, and I appreciate it now much better. And it really is a collaborative conversational process. Um, so
I would, if I can, I
yeah,
would,
go ahead.
everyone, please, please follow David on X. I actually, that's how we met, right?
Yeah,
I saw some of your posts, and they're just like profound to me, and I was asking questions because I was just like, first off, what you were writing, uh, and correlating things to like a current event, right? So you would
yeah,
take a current event and extrapolate from that event and link it to Secrets of Fatima and other things that are in scripture in
yeah,
general, if I can say.
yeah,
And it drew my curiosity, like, why, David? Why, X, Y, and Z? And your responses were thought provoking, more so to me, thought provoking, and kind of allowing myself to self reflect on your what your feedback. And then yeah, I agree, like you are very open to discourse with people. So I just want to encourage everyone to definitely follow David at David Smuts. I'll have obviously I'll have his handle in the description of the video and on X. But David, you hit Aliens 1979,
uh-huh.
and I have to bring something up on this.
Okay.
So when we talk about Shadow Force, Luciferians, the occult powers that be,
Mm-hmm.
and how they have to honor God's gift of free will to us. They create an illusion of like illusionary veil that we think like we don't realize it's a veil.
Mm-hmm.
We think we're seeing truth, and then they operate in that veil, essentially manipulating free will. It's still your choice to decide to believe what they tell you, what they show you, or
Mm-hmm.
as you said, if you have, the gall, I would even say, to say no, I'm going to seek truth on my own terms, whether it takes me down a road that may quote unquote black pill me. Some people, they get exposed to truth, and it's so dark to them that they can't really comprehend it very well.
Yeah.
Um, but when we talk about like metaphysical signaling, I wanted to just, I know this is a little bit, this kind of ties into the disclosure piece that we set up on, and maybe you can tie this back to Fatima,
Mm-hmm.
or just discuss. We could just discuss a little bit on the disclosures. Is on the Ridley Scott vein. This guy is a Gnostic, priest, if you will,
Uh-huh.
and when the movie Prometheus, right,
Yeah.
where this is that veil, right, that confusion, obfuscation that they perpetuate in Hollywood and media in general, is this concept of a very realistic concept that he posits, where there is these beings, they seeded this planet, and then they
Mm-hmm.
found these ancient writings, and it ties back to the star, and the star
Mm-hmm.
takes us to the origin of man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, in the, symbolically, they show the destruction of man. And spoiler alert, everyone that hasn't seen this 12, 13-year-old movie, but they show the symbolic destruction of man by the death of the crew.
Yeah.
Like, it was an entire story of like an agenda. Do you have any feedback on that particular movie, or like what the symbolism, the occult symbolism is on that, and how that kind of is part of that disclosure thing they do, is like, we're going to show you this thing to get you thinking, so then in 6 months, a year, 5 years from now, we're going to tell you we found life on this planet, or
Oh yeah.
we realize that the universe is conscious,
Oh yeah.
like this whole thing. Could you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. I would say this has been going on for a long time, long before Prometheus, which was an enjoyable film. I've seen quite my fair share of sci-fi films. Um, it had that messaging uh, of consider the possibility that we are a progenited race um, who were brought here by elder space brothers. Um, that theory has been espoused sometimes, subtly in films and movies, and sometimes very forcefully in books. Like uh, what's his name? Was it Daniken? Chariots of the Gods.
You're right,
Uh,
Eric von Daniken.
yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Passed away recently. Yeah, his book was um, out there. That I think it was in the late '60s that started, and his whole theory of the alien astronaut, and that you know we've been progenited by aliens, and we're we're somehow secondary and they're somehow superior, which really what it boils down to.
Exactly.
They're the intelligent race, they're the elder space brothers, and we're the young upstarts who really don't know anything, and we just need, you know, aliens to come, the elder space brothers to come back because their children have made a mess of the garden. And the elder space brothers, are going to come back and sort the garden out for us because we can't do it ourselves because we're just too, young and stupid and simpleton humans. Um, that theory has been propagated uh, decades now. I mean, even with the channelings that became really big in the 1930s and then 40s and 50s, where you had spiritualist groups channeling um, uh, other spirits and
Like the
getting
Vril Society.
and Casey and numerous other groups, some with very good intentions,
Yeah.
some just innocently not really knowing what they are getting into, but with the best of intentions, some not so so good.
Yeah.
But the a lot of the communications they were getting was, you're not taking care of your planet. Your nuclear weapons are tearing into the universe. We're going to give you some amount of time to sort it yourself, but if it ever comes to a point where man threatens to annihilate man, we're going to intervene and come and rescue you. um, yeah, that message has been propagated for a really long time, and it's very, very, very firmly established in New Age theology,
Yeah.
um, and various esoteric groups, and it's starting to creep into the consciousness now of mainstream um, thinking, and uh, it's I mean, they do mix some truths in there, so
Exactly.
that's the difficulty. That
Exactly.
they do mix in some truths, um, but the lie is a subtle lie. uh, Sometimes it's not, but it's
It's as simple
best.
as a swap sometimes.
Correct. It's best taken up when it's a slight change to what you're familiar with.
Hmm.
When it's like, oh, we're not denying Jesus, we're just saying he was one of the avatars and he's a prophet, and there's other prophets on the planet Kalar that are really good too. Um, so it always starts with just a very subtle shift. And then it just shifts further and further and further and further and further. And one of the things that they get to how they position it is, well, this is biblical. This is, read your Old Testament. It's Ezekiel's wheel. It's the aliens. And the Elohim. It's the aliens, and the Trinity. That's an alien father and a human son, and Jesus isn't the deity. He's just the Son of Man. Uh, they all have one end goal in mind, and it's not a 10-year end goal. It's not a 20-year end goal. It's further down the line than that. But they they want to take Jesus out of the Godhead. They want to divorce his divinity from his human self, and then re-educate you and give you a different Jesus and a different history, and uh, turn back the clock to the time when they were roaming the earth as men of renown, as the Bible says.
Right.
Um, so they have an agenda, and this trickles down to the human Luciferians who do their bidding because they get benefits. They get spiritual benefits, they get power benefits, they get financial benefits, and they become sucked in to that Luciferianism, oftentimes unconsciously, through things like the Freemasons. They get sucked in, oftentimes without knowing it. Um, and then there are others who actively pursue it, who really know what they're getting into. Uh, but so these, and this is what brings us to where we are now. These human Luciferians, um, who are communicating with the higher powers, the demonic higher powers, and thinking, how do we advance our agenda? How do we manipulate humanity? How do we string events along? And they found their man and they found their moment. The moment is now,
Yeah.
with Christ's sign coming up, but they've also got their man, the agent of chaos. And there is no better man to have in office than the agent of chaos when you're releasing disclosure. Because let me give you an example. If we turn the clock back to 1958, and it's 1950s of America, and it's Ike Eisenhower on the television, making a formal announcement. Everyone stops what they're doing. The factories, put the tools down. They turn on the television to listen to the president's special announcement. And the president says, "My fellow Americans, I have to tell you something of the utmost importance. We are not alone, blah, 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 blah." Americans would believe him. Absolutely believe him, because in those days, the government's word was gospel.
Right.
There wouldn't be any opportunity not to believe him. Apart, they would have their religious convictions, but they would be questioning that. Come the 1960s, we don't really start mistrusting government until the 1970s, really, with Watergate, and then the public sort of starts to get a little bit more suspicious. But even if Bill Clinton said, "I'm making a special address to the nation, please tune in. I have to tell you, fellow Americans, we have made some discoveries that are very challenging to what we know, and I want to be transparent and share those with you," then a lot of people would have taken him seriously. Even the clown Obama, they would have taken that seriously. Biden, they probably would have said, "Who this guy belongs in a nursing home." But they have they have a man now who can string a sentence together and read from a script. But at the same time, he's a liar. He's lying. Trump. He lies about everything. So when Trump, if he gets on and says, "Okay, I'm making a special alien announcement," some people are going to believe him. Some people are going to dismiss it, and that's exactly what they want. If they're going to disclose it, they want to disclose it in such a way that you can believe it or reject it, or just not know where you stand at all.
In a state of confusion, right?
Absolutely.
You have like JD Vance, like on one hand, he's like, "I believe that aliens could actually be demons." And then there's the whole alien disclosure thing happening on the, in tandem with, like you said, Representative Burchett, and I don't like saying Anna Paulina Luna. I'm not anyway. It's just like they're talking out of two sides of the mouth all the time.
Yeah.
It to me, it seems like it's you nailed it. It's just this sense, this desire and this objective of culminating chaos, and now turning up the dial on it while all these other things are going on. We have global energy crisis, war, multipolarity rising, or you can argue one way or the other. Some people will listen to this and probably bash me for saying that. We are moving into a multipolar world. It's just all this happening at once, right? And David, so with the disclosures happening and the obfuscation there, on top of all the other, very, I don't want to say cataclysmic, but pivotal and epochal kind of changes that are happening right now that feel that way. Like, how does it tie into the secrets, right? If we can segue a little bit into the visions, right, that the children saw at the village of Fatima. If we're to correlate what's happening, can you give me and the audience here some explanation as to what that correlatory relationship is?
Yeah, absolutely. There's there's different parts to this. So I've mentioned the warning related to what the Shadow Force will try to do to counteract Christ's sign in advance in the close run up to the approach of that sign, and that explains the psychological preparation to counter Christ's sign. There are other physical preparations that they're doing, technological preparations that they're doing, and then there are other warnings besides those that have to do with displays of power. Is what displays of power in our skies. So this is we're not there yet, and those little orbs over New Jersey. This is not what I'm talking about. The real disclosure. I mean, this isn't even, what they're disclosing isn't really disclosure anyway. The real disclosure is when you step outside your house and you have the scare of your life. You look up and the sky is almost black, not through clouds, but through craft. An armada, a huge display of power designed to frighten the populace. And part of that display, this is the strange thing, part of that display is man-made, part of it isn't. It's a combination of Luciferian Shadow Force, not necessarily our governments per se, but the hidden governments, the deep state or the dumb state, deep underground military base state, those operators. And it's a combination of those two. It's not strictly just aliens appearing, and it's not strictly just U.S. aircraft, demonstrating its capabilities.
Some blue beam stuff going on too, then, like projections. Is that what we're talking about? We're actually talking
yes,
about
probably.
Okay.
Yeah. So it will be a combination of many kinds of visual displays. Some of them artificial, some of them genuine, some of them man-made, some of them not man-made. And I mean, the weird thing is, and this really is weird when you think about it, is that they're contacting one another. They're doing this jointly. It's a joint effort. And that's something really strange to think about. And God will have a response to that. I can tell you that. They're not going to be this is what's lining up in our current timeline. Before this is leading up to Christ's sign, just on the cusp of it. We'll see those displays of awesome power. They're not making a touch landing. That comes later. The next one, as I say, is the display of power in the air. And at that point, it will no longer be possible to deny it. The Neil deGrasse Tysons and those clowns will finally be confronted with it. And the people that dismissed Trump because he's a liar, he's a joker, of course he's and that's intentional. Hey, do you guys think UFOs exist? Not really interested in the subject. I'm trying to do a Trump accent and I'm spoiling it. But that's me doing Trump, making a joke, and then maybe I'm going to release them. Maybe I'm not really into the alien thing, but I know a lot of people are, and they really, it's such a stupid,
Just smoke and mirrors, constantly,
absolutely.
nonstop.
And then the clown Obama, hey, let me just drop, little, hey, yeah, aliens exist, aliens are real. And then if you would say, oh, you thought I was being serious, ha 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 ha.
Disclosure. Then all of a sudden, the website domain is like about illegal immigration. Like they're just laughing in people's faces.
Absolutely.
Mass humiliation ritual, like
Absolutely.
drawing loose. Like it's insane. I mean, and no one sees it.
Yeah. No.
And so what you're saying is that when this display of power, whether it's, as we know that there's like the Aurora triangles, right? There's these rumors of these like US, I might be going too far. I think they were Lockheed related vehicles. But there's going to be a display of actual, terrestrially made vehicles, blue beam projections. And are you saying there's a potential of seeing actual, like, not of human origin craft or entities in the skies?
Yes. In
So
tandem.
within an obfuscation, we're going to see the truth of the dark, but obfuscated in lies as well. So
absolutely. And that's just the opening shot.
Wow.
That's just the opening shot. And that's really going to challenge two groups. And these two groups, they really have a lot in common, surprisingly. One group is the atheist. Okay. And the atheist, at the core of atheism is this supreme arrogance that says, I have searched out the entire universe and I conclude, based on my brilliant intellect, that there is no such thing as God. There's no such thing as the soul or the spirit. Everything's, touch and see. And you're Neil deGrasse Tyson is that archetypal atheist. Arrogant to the core. Okay. Everything's explainable through cells and biology and chemistry, and there's no such thing about life after death or spirit or soul, etc., etc. And then right beside those arrogant atheists, you have what I call rigid religionists. And I want to explain very carefully. I'm not talking about people who have fundamental beliefs about fundamental things. I have fundamental beliefs about fundamental things. So, maybe you can call me a religious fundamentalist in that sense. But these rigid religionists, they're rigid about things that they want to be rigid about. And with that supreme arrogance that the atheists have, they have a similar supreme arrogance that I have checked the universe. I have read all the Bible. I understand every single word of it. And this is the situation. And there's no such thing as life outside of our planet, because Father so-and-so in 368 AD said that. And if you don't believe me, you're not a Christian, you're not Catholic. And they present an outward facade of spirituality when really it's just ego wrapped up in religiosity. And they're going to have a real hard time. Those ones, and a lot of this profile that I'm speaking of are what I would also call celebrity apologists. They're very good at quoting a church father or a catechumen, or making a case against this or against that, whatever their position is, because they all have their own unique positions, of course, because they're God in their twisted sort of way, because they know everything there is to know about Christianity. And they're going to lose their faith, Eamon. They're going to lose their faith, which really, just by the very prospect of, being faced with a UFO that's not of human origin. That alone, when they're confronted with that, not when Trump announces it or they see some video from Jeremy Corbell, but when they see it in their backyard, when they're confronted with that, a lot of them are going to lose their faith because their faith was never really Christ-centric. It was egocentric. And that's also by design. And you're then going to have the larger population who are thinking, how do I make sense of this? Those people who are rooted in Christ, they're going to be okay, because this isn't going to, rock their entrenched view that they had, that they've propagated and made books on and make videos on and profited from. They're going to be in a better position than the atheist and the rigid religious when their world comes crashing down.
Right.
And then that's when there's an opportunity, if you will, for certain people, certain false prophets, to then come in and bring clarity and then calm the masses down and say, don't worry. There will be people saying that for good reasons. I'll be saying that at that time, but the differences are
they're going to be shepherded in the wrong direction.
You got it. And you know what? They're not going to look to Perry Stone. He's an evangelical false prophet who's been going out and saying, hey, we're being consulted by Trump about the aliens, and kind of bragging and boasting that, the evangelicals are selected and everyone else is excluded.
So frustrating.
Yeah. When these things started, people aren't going to look to Perry Stone. They're not going to look to Joel Osteen. They're going to look to the Pope. They're going to look to, and this is where we start to venture more and more into Fatima. They're going to look into a man they respect, who's calm-headed, who doesn't shout or scream or make silly comments. They're going to look to the leader of 1.4 billion Catholics in the world, and there's no other equivalent in terms of whatever religion. I'm sorry, Muslims, you don't have a Pope equivalent. That's not an insult. You just don't. You have 300 different imams. Judaism, you don't have a figurehead. You've got people who call themselves chief rabbi, but there is no authority. The Pope has a unique position with earthly authority. One would say spiritual authority, and some would say, well, he's not using that, but that's another discussion. But they're going to look to the church for answers, because that's the only institution that's going to have them that makes sense at the time. And this is this is where, sadly, that they're going to get a mixture. They're going to get a mixture of the truth. Some of it will be, profound truth, but the problem is, I don't like talking about this, to be honest.
Only talk what you're comfortable about. I mean,
well, no, I want to talk about it, but I don't like talking about it.
Okay.
They're going to be shepherded in a wrong direction, to quote your words, but in a very, very subtle and clever way. And
is this like Saint Malachi's Black Pope like his prophecy? I know we briefly talked about. I don't know if you is this kind of that, like the Gray Pope or the Black Pope kind of conjecture?
Yeah. kind of.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry,
kind of.
I just figured I'd ask.
Sorry, no, it's unpleasant to talk about, and I have to choose my words very carefully here,
Okay.
because whatever I say, I'm going to offend someone. Um, and this isn't. I mean, I, I love my church. I'm a Catholic. I'm not saying this to denigrate uh, uh, the Roman Catholic Church or the temporal institution per se. Um, uh, I'm just telling you now uh, that when people look for answers, they're going to turn to the Pope. Whether they're Muslim, whether they're Jewish, atheist, whatever it be, because he will speak with authority. He will speak with the numbers. So I can't tell you what he's going to say. Um, uh, Conceivably, it might not even be Leo who's saying it. Conceivably. So this isn't, you know,
Oh, so it could
some.
be this soon. It could be within the current Leo the 14th,
It
Leo's timeline.
it could be.
Could be.
It
We don't want
could
to.
be.
Yeah, we're speculating, right?
We're speculating, and that's why I say to people, Leo is in the utmost need of our prayers. Whatever you think about him, he really needs our prayers, and
I
not
mean,
just the
but
sort of prayers that, oh, I hope he's successful, or oh, you really got to say the right kind of prayers, and counteract some of the negative of prayers and the negative influence that surrounds him, because there is a lot of that. Um,
agreed. He just did
so
something pretty. He made a very good stance recently. He did for me, and I know I'm speaking from the outside, so fellow Catholics out there, don't kill me. But he goes and blesses ICE for climate change. I'm like, what are you
yeah,
doing?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then he goes and he's essentially, I'm these are my words,
Hmm.
but to me it seemed like he forsakes AI and even basically makes the comparison to we're building a Tower of Babylon system and we need to be very mindful of this and this is dangerous
Which
with
is a
AI.
good thing to say. Which is a
Yeah.
good thing to say. So yeah, well done, Leo, on that. But that is also part of the assignment.
Okay.
He's a well liked pope. He's going to be even more well liked when people tune to him or his successor. I have to be careful here.
Right.
When they turn to the figurehead, the peace broker of the world,
Hmm.
because they're going to look at someone like, Trump. Um, it may be someone else at that time, but they're going to look at that clown and say, "I'm not going to listen to you," you know,
Yeah.
or Obama or Biden if he's still alive,
Secular leader,
yeah, they're not going to want to listen to those. They're not
right.
going to ask John Hagee for his advice or Joel Osteen. They're going to want to speak to someone who can, bring files and papers out from 2,000 years ago and speak in the name of the chair of Peter and representing 1.4 billion people on humanity. And they will listen to him. They will listen to him. What he says, I can't say right now. Um, and again, I stress it might not even be Leo. Um, I have to stress that out.
Yeah.
Um, and even the Leo that we have today may not be the same Leo in future.
Hmm.
Um,
Just
uh,
speculating, just for the audience. We're just
yeah,
having,
yeah. But the institution of the Roman Church and the Pontiff is and Fatima said, the secrets mention this. This is during the last decade, there will be a, a type of resurgence, not a true, revival, but there will be Christ will begin to draw people to the church, um,
We're
and
kind
I'm
of
not
seeing that now. Are you thinking that's happening right now?
that is happening right now.
Okay.
Um, it's I can just foresee the comments I'm going to get from people who the Sedevacantists, or people who say, oh, he's not the valid pope, and they have their arguments to make, and I don't dismiss them out of hand at all. And I agree with a lot of what they say. Um, what they don't understand is the Fatima timeline, and how the church transitions from being the visible church to the underground church and the ape of the church. And there's a process involved with that. It's not just one day, it's the bride of Christ, and the visible church, and then the next day there's a process to that, and it's very complicated. But what we are told is that people will turn to the church for answers. So, if you're a Luciferian and you're reading that, then you're going to make, pretty. You're going to pull out all of the stops to make sure that you have your people inside that church when that time comes, so
Scary.
that they'll give the answers you want them to give.
Mm,
That's the problem we're facing. Um,
I see.
yeah. So we the gun's been shot. The people are the marks been made ready, and the race has begun, and this is just part of the opening act. There's a lot more to transpire, and to follow, and it's not going to be wrapped up in 3.5 years, or even 7 years, as the evangelicals imagine. It's going to be further drawn out than that, I'm afraid. But we are everything that's mentioned about the last decade. We're seeing that fulfilled. Month after month, something else is coming up, and I'm frequently on my post saying, "Remember when I said this?" and validating it with a subsequent development, and people saying, "Oh yeah, I didn't believe you at the time, but yeah, I see you were right." Um, yeah, I was right. Not to sound boastful, not of my own intelligence, not of my own, um, uh, you know, philosophical or intellectual assessment or prediction of things, but from Fatima. It's not. I don't take credit for this. This is coming from the revelations of Fatima, and we are in that last decade now. We've
We're in the decade
We
right
are
now.
in the decade right now, before Christ's great sign. We are in that decade now. Um, and we're in the early part of it.
We're year
Um,
one, year two.
it would have started sometime between 2020 to 2023.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay, so we're in it.
and
In it.
I, yeah, and I'm thinking probably more 2023. So three. I'm speculating here.
Of
Uh,
course. Of course.
yeah, I think we're about 3 years into that little chapter, that little chapter, and it's going to get really, really stormy and crazy towards the end.
What was
What
the
we
sorry, David.
Go right
Just
ahead.
curious. Apologies. Just on the
Right?
on 2023, what would was there a particular set of events or a specific
Yes,
event that
yes,
kind of signaled to you, okay, based on your understanding of the secrets of Fatima and your knowledge, and your discernment, what was that, or what were those events that may have led you to believe, okay, this, as you said, the gun has gone off and the
yeah.
race is on.
The first one was COVID, but I think that was a false start.
Okay.
And it didn't turn out like I was expecting. The particular plague that's mentioned isn't this Spanish flu type of repeat. It's something more environmental. So I think that was a false start and probably deliberate. But the one that the marker was the invasion of Ukraine. That's occurring just at the start. It doesn't mean that it immediately starts on that day of, I think, 26th of February 2022, but it's just on the cusp of that. So that was really, I mean, when that happened, that's really when I could no longer delay coming out on X and speaking what I knew, because for years I had wrestled with it. I did not want to come out and do this. And the Lord sort of forced me. I'm ashamed to say, and He forced me through events that were happening, that were starting to verify that we're entering that final decade. And even in the lead up to that, I had been thinking, well, you know what? Maybe my task is to take what I know and speak to the Russian ambassador and speak to the British Prime Minister and I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I have means and ways of channels through those people at that time, not now. But the Prime Minister was Boris Johnson, and he's an atheist, and I thought, well, there's no way he's going to take this seriously. The Russian ambassador, he's a good guy. The British ambassador, he's pretty level-headed, and I was thinking, well, maybe that's maybe it's the leaders I need to warn about, as opposed to the public at large, and maybe it's the religious figures. And I prayed about this quite a lot, and the confirmation I had from the Lord was that they're not interested. They know already. The ones that don't believe in it aren't going to do anything about it, and the ones that do believe in it already know that, and you're only going to expose yourself and put yourself at risk, David. So I want you going out to the public, and that's when in 2023 is when I took the leap and came out on X and said, hey everybody, I'm here to talk about Fatima. Anyone want to ask any questions? Nope. Right. Nobody was interested. Nobody. It was like trying to get someone to ask a question was like trying to draw blood from stone. Absolutely. And I thought, oh, what have I done? I'm using my own name, my image, my, friends and family can find me, business associates, and this is crazy. But I persevered, and I listened to the Lord, and He internally, through His locutions, assured me that it's not about the numbers. To expect rejection. The celebrity priests aren't going to be interested. The celebrity podcasters aren't going to be interested. The celebrity exorcists aren't going to be interested. The celebrity apologists aren't going to be interested. They'll ignore you. And then, as Gandhi said with his, what were they, the 5 steps of a movement. First, they ignore you. Then they laugh at you. Then they hate you. Then they fight you, and then you win. Well, I'm still in between the first they ignore you and then they laugh at you stage. The not as people aren't ignoring me so much now. The celebrity priests certainly are. They know who I am. They know exactly who I am because they block me. But they don't want to hear about this. It's not what they've read about, and that's a real disappointment.
Right.
And the people that do take the messages on board, it's a very small number. I wish it was more, but that's not in my gift. That's not up to me. People later on, people will be, wanting to speak to me a lot more. Whether I'll still be available or not, I don't know. But the ones who are responding now, um, God bless them for that. They're they're asking out of curiosity, and not necessarily because they believe me, but they're thinking, well, this is an interesting answer I wasn't expecting, and oh, he's come back to me straight away with an answer, and here's some verses that I can check and read up, and oh, okay, the guy's not a lunatic. And hey,
Exactly.
he said that 2 weeks ago, and this news stories just validated that. So maybe I should pay attention to this guy, and that's kind of where we're at. Where we're at now,
Yeah.
and that's
Unfortunately,
fine.
people require things to become existential to react properly, and
Absolutely.
oftentimes it's almost. I don't like saying it's too late. I know I have friends that believe that it's over. I don't believe that. It's never over till it's over, but unfortunately, it
Right.
needs to get pretty dang close to the precipice of it
Absolutely.
for a critical mass to be achieved. And I agree with you. I think that's probably you're at the finger pointing. This guy's look at this guy. No one believes
Uh-huh.
him.
Yeah.
But if we are in your speculation, right, that we're like 3 years into this,
Yeah.
and then arguably if you say the first indicator, whether false or it could have been true indicator, was in 2020 into 2020, beginning of 21, right, with the Australian fire, and then the
Uh-huh.
spread of the pandemic. I
Yeah.
mean, lines up with another pretty interesting agenda called Agenda 2030. So,
Exactly,
so yeah,
and it lines up with the timeline. Fatima doesn't give us specific years, and
right,
and people who are looking for a specific year and a specific date are going to be disappointed. But it does give us an indicative timeline, and that is Christ's sign being that marker, which occurs at the end of 20 centuries. Um, Now, hitherto, people who were aware of Fatima presumed that to be man's clock. They presumed that to be the year 2000, counting from the date that we assume Christ was born. But that date and that time passed, and the things that were said were going to happen didn't happen. So in 2000, the Vatican sort of like, "Whew, we dodged the bullet there." You know, hey, isn't that great? Well, now we can release this letter and call it the third secret. It's not. This is the letter of the bishop in white, and the nefarious ones in there really thought that oh, we've dodged a bullet. Great, this is marvelous. The more faithful ones said we may have got the timeline wrong.
mm,
And they did, and this is really interesting. So if we count the 20 centuries from Christ's crucifixion and resurrection, we have an estimated timeline of AD 30 to AD 33. We don't know the exact date that Christ was crucified and resurrected, and we don't know the exact date of his departure after he was sojourning for 40 days. Um, but we have an indicative timeline.
right,
So it's not going to be much later than that. Maybe 2034 at the latest, maybe 2029 at the earliest. But we have a indicative timeline of that 2030 to 2033. which just so happens to be the third day. Christ rose on the third day. He's rising again on the third day.
They love that 33 number, don't they?
Absolutely. And if we count one day as 1,000, as Peter said, uh, be aware that 1,000 years to man is but a day to God. Mm-hmm. Then there's a lot of biblical confirmations for that expectation of the 2030 to 2033 timeline. And the Agenda 2030, you got it. They've got their, we've got to have the digital currency in, we've got to have the global ID, and they've already got those things, but they haven't yet
rolled it out. That's
correct. They're already there. You've already got this, sorry to
but we have like the Real ID in America, like all driver's license got replaced, and you go to the every time you fly, they have to a lot of people don't know, and this is, I'm not advising you, people, people that are listening, but you can decline the biometric photo, but they're doing all that to just build the profile on you. And then you have the Real ID now, which is the precursor to digital ID, as David's talking about. The systems are in place.
The systems are in place. The timelines are in place. The agreements have been made. They've been made behind closed doors, in the Bilderberger groups and in Bern in Switzerland, wherever these people meet up. They've made their agreements. They've signed their nations up. And they can have a mock fight between Carney and Trump, or Scheinbaum and Trump. It's all theater. They are all agreed on the fundamentals. The fundamentals for the New World Order. They are all in agreement with that.
Yeah, and didn't Scheinbaum just recently in the last couple months, didn't they? I don't know if this is a fact. I read something on it. But aren't they banning like cash? Like everything has to be.
Yeah.
Like that's already happening in Mexico.
Yeah, in the petrol courts, you have to. What I read was that the petrol courts have gas stations have banned cash, and you have to pay with card or electronic money. And they're doing different things in different countries, and they're all working together. So Australia's doing this, England's doing this, and people naively think, well, if we just send a petition to Parliament, 3 million signatures, they have to pay attention. No, they don't. They don't have to. It's there already. We can stop it. Exactly. We just gotta, educate people and vote harder, get the vote out. That's what democracy is all about. These people are deluded. You already have a global ID. You don't know what it is. They're not telling you yet, but you have some unique identifier already set in place. 2030 is when they just begin to unveil it to you.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, whatever, First Amendment, Second Amendment, whatever the various amendments you have, they're going to count for diddly squat when they introduce these things. And you won't be able to just, well, I'm not going to comply with the digital ID. You're not going to have a choice. You've already got the ID. They'll bring it up, when you arrive in a hospital, when you go and, to pay a bill or whatever. Not complying literally means going out to some remote forest where they cannot track you or trace you, and there's no property register, and no tax inspector or whatever, and living off grid. Good luck if you want to do that. 99.99% of people are going to be faced with this, whether they like it or not. It's not crazy. Yeah, it's not the mark of the beast. So at least let me, reassure anyone who's worrying about that. God isn't going to cast you out to eternal hell because you've used a digital ID to pay a parking ticket because you had no other option, or you were going to lose your home. Or no, that's not it. But it's the stepping stone. It's it's putting it in place, and they're putting in place a series of I guess what you would just call concessions, where the population concedes willingly,
Mhm.
and they don't resist, and they don't make a fuss, and well, the digital ID is convenient, and it's not the mark of the beast, at least not yet. um, and I don't really have another choice. And these facial recognition cameras, well, I hear they caught this criminal, so it's a good thing. And these data centers, they wouldn't put, data centers to spy on us. I mean, come on, we've got all these, constitutional rights. Our government would never do that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the Chinese, yeah, but not the USA.
Iran's a threat. Iran's a
Yeah,
threat to America. Yeah, no, they're not.
yeah. So,
Really, they're a threat to themselves. David, maybe like what we could do here, because we're coming about an hour and a half, and I do want
okay,
us to get these questions. And if you're
yeah,
open to it, I'd love to do a second episode with you. Maybe we
sure.
can get this one out there, and then get folks to start asking some pertinent questions around the Secrets of Fatima, what they want to
Yeah.
understand about that, and get some people following you. And then we could do a second one where we go a little bit deeper. Because this, we had a lot of stuff here today.
Oh yeah.
So I
Oh
was
yeah.
wondering if you're okay with this. Like we can maybe bring the discussion here to a close with this topic, and then pivot to the questions that we got over the week. And the question is maybe to ensure people of what the beast system is.
Uh-huh.
Would
Okay.
you maybe give, like you've explained to me, because I came to you in tremendous fear about it,
Uh-huh.
and
A lot of people.
you would you mind like talk about the oath, and like that it's not like it's just going to be put on you and you don't have a choice. You have to be a willing participant in this.
Absolutely.
Could you maybe take us out with that before we go to questions?
Yeah, yeah. It's a big subject, and this deserves an entire
Well,
podcast
maybe we can
on
do
its
that.
own.
I know we
I
talked about
I can
maybe doing.
summarize it.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Essentially, it is all of these technologies are just stepping stones. They're component parts. They're like part of the puzzle that they're you haven't got the complete picture yet, and you haven't been faced with that ultimate oath challenge. So people get very obsessed on the technology side. Um, yes, these are parts of the mark of the beast. Yes, they are constituent components to it. They're forerunners to it, but they're not the thing that's going to condemn you to hell. That part, that ultimate, what I call the ultimate mark, that's in a future time, during the anti-Christian age, where you will be um, you will be given a choice to pledge your oath to this person that claims to be Jesus returned in flesh as part of his millennium kingdom, or reject his dominion and his kingdom. And it's going to be that, and the there's going to be a lot of benefits tied into this choice. This future mark. People are going to take it. Some of them because they've, you know, deluded themselves into thinking that this future demon spirit is Jesus returned in flesh. A lot of others will just take it because well, the majority are doing it. Um, COVID was a good warning for us on that front. Um, I don't want to be left out. They're saying I'm a conspiracy theorist if I don't pledge the oath to this guy who says he's Yeshua HaMoshiach. Um, so that oath hasn't been presented to us, and neither have the incentives to take it, because there's going to be some really intense incentives. One of them is an extended lifespan. When you sort of take this upgrade, you're going to be enabling your body to cheat death for a period of time. The In the book of Revelation, it mentions giving life to the image of the beast. So the mark as the image of the beast really has to. It's not a concept very well understood. Humans are created in the image of God. When the beast comes and the Antichrist comes, he will be transforming humans from, when they take his mark, from being made in the image of God into being made in the image of the beast. And they will be like unto beasts. They will become beasts themselves over time once they've taken it. And they will, by pledging their oath at a time when the two saints and the other saints are warning them, saying, don't take it. This isn't Jesus. This guy is not Jesus. Yeah, but he's in Jerusalem and he's got, all these people saying he's Jesus and he's made all these great miracles and he's quoting from the Old Testament. And I think he's Jesus. This guy's not Jesus. I'm being playful here, and for dramatic effect. But we're not there yet. That's still in our future. But one thing he's going to do is like Jesus, I promised you I'm going to give you life. You're going to want to spend 1,000 years with me. Well, here's, take this device. I use that word very loosely. Whatever form it is, it doesn't really matter. Whether it's a biscuit that you digest, it's not going to be, requiring open brain surgery to insert a chip in. No, it's going to be easy peasy to take. Take this and swear an oath to me as your Messiah, as Yeshua HaMoshiach returned in flesh to rule from his earthly kingdom in Jerusalem. And when you take it, you're going to live a very long time. Look at all these other people. You're going to live for 1,000 years. And at that point, it's no lie that you will actually, the life will be given to the image of the beast. You're going to have, enhanced sensory perceptions, see for miles and miles, and, great hearing, great, you're going to have really cool lucid dreams. You're going to have 30-minute orgasms. Imagine that.
Jeez.
And there will be real tangible benefits. And people will see and observe those and say, well, hey, I want that too. Well, this, I don't care if this guy's Jesus or not. I want that 30-minute orgasm. I want that, I want the skin of youth. I want a 1,000-year lifespan. I want an IQ of 336, and they'll get all of that at the cost of their soul, because when they make that binding oath, it's hard to explain in terminology that we can understand.
No, for sure. But ultimately, it's going to be you basically closing yourself off from the Holy Spirit, and at that point,
uploading a counterfeit spirit.
Right.
So no one can force the Holy Spirit out of anyone.
Right.
But God will voluntarily leave, because they've seen the sign, they rejected the sign, they've seen the warnings from the two witnesses, they've rejected them, they've rejected the saints, and now they've sealed it all by rejecting me and taking this oath and taking this imposter who's trying to steal my name, and I won't stand for it. And
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm taking my Holy Spirit with me, and you can have the beast spirit. And then they're going to find that they find themselves trapped in a body that they no longer control. They will, they may have 1,000 years, but it's going to be 1,000 years of hell, because their mind won't fully be their own, and they won't have the control over their nervous system
Wow.
and their movements, and they're really going to regret that very bad choice that they made. And like the book of Revelation says, in those days men will seek death, but they won't be able to find it. It will escape from them. So what that means, that's talking about this time when it's a transhuman future, when you've quote unquote upgraded to the latest model, human 2.0, with your imposter, Yeshua HaMoshiach, taking his, downloading his counterfeit spirit. You're going to want to end your life later on. You're going to want to kill yourself, but God's not going to let you, because you won't control your body anymore. It won't be yours. It won't be yours to pick up that knife and insert it in you. You will have lost autonomy over your body and your mind, and you will be reduced to a zombie automaton that, you are there to bow down and worship the beast and do whatever you're told, and that is it. And you have no option for escape, and you are condemned to hell as well. So yeah, don't take it.
Don't do it, guys.
Don't do it. It's still in our future, but these are the stepping stones towards that. There is a technology component to it, but it doesn't become activated as intended. God won't withdraw his Holy Spirit until you make that binding oath.
Thank you for giving that. We have time, and reject it when the time comes, folks.
Absolutely.
David, let's pivot over to these questions and
Okay.
close.
Looking
Let's
forward
get
to
this
it.
one closed out here with some questions from some folks that submitted them. Let's start with a question. Actually, the first two questions are from the horse's mouth of, I believe, one of your followers on X. Question one is there a possibility that the quote unquote chosen ones altered part of our texts to make us believe that fighting back and wanting to live is unchristian, instead of martyring ourselves and sacrifice are preached to us?
Okay. No is the answer to that. Um, I gather by the chosen ones, this person's referring to Jews. No, they haven't altered our New Testament. If they have, they would have taken out Revelation 3.9. They would have taken out any mention of the synagogue of Satan. They would have taken out any mention of Jerusalem in the end times being Egypt and Sodom. Sodom representing debauchery, Egypt representing oppression. And there is no greater place on earth today than modern day Israel that is more oppressed and more debauched than Israel. It is today's modern Egypt for its slavery through and its oppression, particularly of Palestinians, Christians, and Muslims. And it's more debauched. It is Sodom on the sea, Sodom on the Mediterranean. So, if they wanted to change that, they would have made a lot more omissions. So, no, we can rely on our New Testament texts. The question is then, does the New Testament guide Christians or suggest that the desire to live is unchristian. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because Jesus tells you, he who endures all of these troubles and strifes in the end will be saved. So that's a message of hope. That's sort of a reason to stay alive. If you can survive whatever tribulations are coming, there's a ticket for you um, by Jesus himself. Uh, there's a promise in Revelation. In if you read the letters to the seven churches, he who endures, he who stays truthful, will sit on my Father's throne next to me. That's a good encouragement. Um, uh, Jesus is not asking us to go and put a knife in our stomach, or to commit harikari, or to abandon the desire to live. It's more about understanding that this material realm, this world is not our home, and Jesus wants you to be aware of that. We look forward to the afterlife. We look forward to joining our spouse Christ and dispensing with all of the rigmarole of this body of flesh that we have. And he gives us a promise, a really amazing, incredible promise. It's not just that we're going to, go out and live in heaven and drink, pina coladas and sit on the beach. It's that we're going to be doing some really fantastic, amazing things once we're out of here, once we're out of this university of life. We want to graduate. We look forward to the end. And that's what Christ and his disciples really emphasize, is the hereafter over the temporal here and now. But I think also the question was sort of asking about martyrdom, and I think he said wanting to live being unchristian. That's not unchristian. Everyone wants to live, most everyone, but also Christianity isn't. We aren't obligated to total pacifism. If
Right.
someone's trying to kill you, and rape your daughter or whatever, you have a right to defend yourself, even to the point of taking life. That's not pleasant. No one wants to do that. But Christ doesn't say, if someone attacks you and tries to rape your daughter, just say shalom. He doesn't say that. And the quote about turn the other cheek, people often distort that to play with that, and say that that's the case. No, you only have two cheeks. He didn't say turn three cheeks. That commandment is about not losing your temper, and forgiveness, and toleration of injustices up to a point. It's not go and be a slave and let this person do whatever they want to do to you. That's not at all what we are told or commanded. But again, the emphasis is not on this world, but on the next.
Right. Thanks, David. Thanks for that one. We actually have one more from the horse's mouth.
Uh-huh.
And it may have kind of tied into a little bit of what you just provided for
Uh-huh.
him, or her. Sorry, I don't know, Anon. But it is the question is it possible the book of Revelation serves mostly to discourage us and make us feel hopeless? Most of us will die. Those who do not will wish they did, and this awaits us all. Even if we live during good times, we know it awaits our descendants.
Okay. It is a similar question, and the answers I've just given have equally valid to this question.
Okay.
I think there's a different nuance here. Uh, we're looking specifically at Revelation, which is a disturbing book, no doubt. It's um, you don't hear it read in many Catholic churches. I can tell you that. Evangelicals, on the other hand, they're pretty heavy into it. It is a disturbing uh, uh, vision of John. But like with Fatima, it's there to forewarn us and to forearm us. And there's also with that a lot of some pretty amazing promises that Jesus is making to us, um, uh, but not in this temporal world. The promises come after you. If you want to join with Jesus on His throne, that requires you're leaving this world and this body. And spoiler alert, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
We're all going to die. Um, so if we're going to die, then let's just make sure we're prepared for that as best we can, so that when we die, because we don't know when, that we're in a good place, and that we're heading to heaven, and we're heading to be back with Christ. Um, uh, that is definitely our focus. Um, I, and I sometimes I think this draws in to other questions that I frequently get on X. Some people will ask me, what do we need to do? And I tell them about, okay, amend your life, live for Christ, take up the sacraments, all the basic spiritual 101 lessons. The same message from Fatima from 1917 that was released. We know that part of what we need to do. Um, uh, it's in the Bible. It's being published from Fatima in 1917. It's stop sinning. Can you do that? Can you reduce your swearing? That's a good step. Can you receive the Eucharist with thanks and honor that it deserves? There you go. Um, and the spiritual people who are comfortable with that understand that and are reassured by that. But then there's other peoples that say, I give me the practical. Where is safe? Um, where can I go now? Should I build a bunker? Should I leave this country? Should I go somewhere else? And my message is always, it's not time yet to pack up our bags and run and leave. That's not what the Lord is asking. He is asking us to make a collective calling in public, with a contrite spirit, and make a national confession and acknowledge to God, what our nation, whatever nation we're in, has done. In America, it would be acknowledging the genocide that America perpetuates. It would acknowledge the false idols of celebrity worship and Israel worship and Trump worship, and just say, God, forgive us for this. We're sorry. We acknowledge this is what our nation's doing. Please come and intervene. No one wants to do that. They'd rather, no, that's not, they're almost resigned to that never happening. So they're just thinking, well, that's not going to happen. No one's going to do that. Is there a bunker I should buy? Is there, they want the material solutions to what are truly spiritual problems at the end of the day. And I can say, look, if I could tell you, go and live in a forest, go to Russia, go to Patagonia, go to the Yukon, I don't know, live off grid, destroy whatever technology you have, that will only get you so far. That will only last you so far. And you really need to ask yourself, what are you preserving by doing that? You
Exactly.
know,
There's an inevitability to everything here. I have a tendency, David, to mute my mic and forget and talk, and
uh-huh.
then my mouth just flaps. Um,
That's
so
okay. It was
yeah,
good timing.
yeah, you can run and hide, but the,
Yeah,
there's an end to all of this, and
exactly. Yeah. And you know, a lot of people are looking for the earthly solutions. They want to hear, here's the solution. What we need to do is set up a new political party, and we're going to ban, uh, 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 foreign influence. And someone that says no, that won't work. There'll never be a third party in America. What we need to do is all register in the primaries and get our candidates to agree. No, no, that will never. What we need to do is change the laws and put in some new safeguards. And they're scramming for solutions, and none of those will help them.
right,
None of them. And then there's others that say what we need to do is march on Washington and remove this lot. And 1776 again. That Here's the bad news. You can do that, but they already know that you're planning that. The minute you
they want you
text
to do that. Actually,
exactly,
they're baiting you into it.
exactly, you log online and you see someone, oh, group 1776, we're gonna do, and they're feds. They're
Exactly.
set up. And even if, okay, I'm not going to find a group, I'm going to sort my own group. That's the only thing I can do. I can trust. Even then, they've got your data. They know when you're saying these things. They can hear you in your electric car. They can hear you through the Wi-Fi in your home. Whatever
Your
you
television,
do, exactly.
through
It's
your refrigerator now.
absolutely. It's a surveillance state. You don't
Yep.
know it quite yet, but any attempt to do that, they're onto you before you've even put petrol in your truck.
Hmm.
Um, and then, ironically, let's say you were successful in descending down on DC. Um, they're everywhere. Just DC removing them, you would have to descend on everything, every single city, at the Boulder bunkers in Colorado, the armaments places in Georgia, Wright Patterson in Ohio. You would have to have a mass spontaneous, and it would have to be quick, spontaneous revolution. And let's just say you managed to pull that off. Great. Who's your leader?
Exactly.
Who do you put in place now? Oh, Tommy. And who's Tommy? The guy they've got set up waiting to take that place and
And they have
bring
COG.
and
They have
bring and bring safety to the anarchy that reigns. And we need, we got rid of the bad guys. We got rid of the swamp, and now we need peace and safety. And here's Tommy. Um, Whatever you do, however you map it out, any um, physical solution, any worldly solution is not going to work. You have
yeah.
tremendous, powerful spiritual powers that you're not aware of, that you're not utilizing. Um, and that's all you have. So my question to these people: what are you preserving? Are you preserving democracy? We haven't had democracy. It's been a two party. It's a uni party. You've had the illusion of democracy of the 50s and the 60s and the good times of what you thought were the 80s. It was just as controlled as then, but now you're seeing it. Now
Yeah,
it's
it's
in
in
your
your face
now,
now.
now it's in your face. But what is it you're preserving? And if you're trying to preserve your property, they can take that from you. And uh, your wealth, they can take all of that. if you're trying to preserve your body of flesh, well, you're only going to be able to do that for so long. If you go down that route, the route
Right.
you want to go down is the spiritual route. Jesus said, "He who values his life will lose it, and he who loses his life will gain it." Meaning that if you try and just do everything you can physically to preserve whatever you think you are trying to preserve, you're going to fail. You are going to fail. That's I'm sorry for the bad news. I know that's not what you want to hear. I know people want to hear all we need to do is vote this candidate,
We'll vote our
uh,
way out of it.
yeah, Macy in 2028, Macy 2028, you folks are deluded. I'm sorry that ship has sailed long ago. Long
It's just
ago.
on. It's a loop. It's just this endless
Yeah.
loop. And like I've said in the past, it's like really since Bush Senior was like, I forget the name of that device. It's like those balls, and then the bearings that you hit, and then like they start swinging, right?
Uh-huh.
And everything is just this momentous like pendulum. Maybe a pendulum is a better example. It's just
Yeah.
the intensity with each election, specifically in the states, just gets larger and larger. It's actually like one of those rides, David, where like you're on the ship and then it does the flip, you
Yeah.
know. And we're about to hit that. We're about to go upside down because it's gone
Oh,
from Bush
absolutely.
to Clinton to Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden to Trump to who
Yeah.
knows who's next. And it's just my
And
personal
yeah.
opinion is they've already architected what they hope will become. I'll say the initials CW in the United States. And then it would literally fall into, even if there was a large revolt and like coordinated one, it would end up in CW
Yeah.
because there'll be factions. There's not a unified leader. There's not a
Correct.
unified front.
Correct.
And neither of us are advocating for this or anything like that. It's conjecture and we're just
Yeah.
discussing. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no way out of this at
No.
this point. I think the ship has sailed. Personally, that sounds very quote unquote black pillish to some, but
Uh-huh.
that doesn't mean I don't have hope and good. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. But get your priorities straight. Your
right,
priorities are, you're going to die one day, folks. You know, um, you want to make sure that when you do leave this mortal realm, that you're going back to your true spiritual home. That's really all that counts. That's all
exactly,
that matters. And trying to preserve your your democracy, or trying to preserve this little farm you have in the Appalachian, however you pronounce it, mountains. Those things, they're not going to last. And when the fire starts falling from the sky and burning up your farm, what was the point of even preserving it in
yeah,
that case? So uh, get your priorities straight is the message, and there is a lot of hope in that, and there's a
agreed,
great promise. But people, they're focused on the here and the now, and they don't want to hear about the afterlife. They don't want to hear about the future promise. They just want to know, how can I preserve what I have right now, not understanding that what they have right now is not what they actually have. um, it's frustrating trying to um, bring this to people's knowledge, and they can fall into despondency, like you said. I think that's what black pill is. I get confused about these multicolored pills. Um, uh, but if from despondency they then follow into spiritual solutions and spiritual choices, well then yeah, bring that despondency on. If that's what it takes for them to start to turn into a different direction, okay, well maybe they need a little black pilling.
yeah.
Um, that's my
Black
view.
pilling sobering. It doesn't mean that you
Yeah,
are becoming a doomer. To be black pilled is just acceptance of like the harsh and stark realities in front of you.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, David, let's go to this next one.
Okay.
We have one friend of the show and personal friend of mine, Smitty. He's a space host
Great.
on X. I advise everyone to go check Smitty out. Uh, there's potential news coming in the coming days on some guests for Smitty. I'll leave that there. But unless David, I mean, I guess I just can't let the cat. David may be planning to go on Smitty's spaces. That'll be really
Yes.
awesome. I'll be pushing that out as well. Definitely want to see everybody go there and check that out. That'll be probably even more long form than this potentially, and with a panel of asking questions. So definitely check that out. But the question, David, is a little off topic from what we've discussed.
Uh-huh.
But Smitty asks, what is David's stance on the current Pope being Pope Leo the 14th, being from Chicago, being the first American Pope, and currently having strife and conflict, not physically, but having disagreements and with President Trump. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to have to choose my words very carefully. Let's look at these two men's assignments because they're vastly different from one another. One man, Donald John Trump, his assignment is the chaos agent. He's here to bring the system crashing down. He's here to usher in chaos, confusion, strife, war, uncertainty, you name it. What is Leo's assignment? And I've said this before he was even Pope. Leo's assignment is to be the international peace broker, the man who calms down the storm,